Hey, beautiful people, how are you? Yes, sunny days still, thank you. Thought I'd just do a live stream, close to a big stream or big ocean, and give you a wee update. Welcome to all my good friends and community members, first of all, and also there'll be free viewers. It's YouTube live, so welcome to anybody who chooses to log in this Saturday. And these are what I'm going to cover so that you know where I'm going to take you. First of all, there is a bit of an update on some equity trades and a FX trade, none of which as yet have triggered or moved in the long run direction reset wise we expect them to come the time. And in fact, they've all largely gone back to risk on mode again. So we'll talk about risk on, risk off, and the dovetailing with that is the timings of resets. I'm going to reiterate a view I've shared before. Hey, hello from Malta. Nice to see you. It looks like Paul. Thank you. You love me long time with a like. Loving the people long time liking me and loving me. Thank you very much for that. Want to give you an update because it's a little bit overdue and slightly ruefully as well, because there's a chance that I didn't communicate correctly or I was maybe too excitable for the free trades that I gave and need to give some context for everything that's happened since and why they're still good. And within all that, and then more importantly, I'm going to take you into a place that I find deeply disconcerting. So this is not a comfort clip in terms of the future of our control structure and where they wish to take us. So I get a lot of people that know the kind of content I'm talking about and where the things that interest me. So I get quite a lot of inbound articles. It would be impossible for me on my own to track. And these come to me via many sources. Some I find myself and some have come from you fine people, and keep them coming, by the way. I really appreciate that because it kind of gives me mini hub usage, and then I can proliferate that awareness to all so that we, I suppose, spread the word. So let's deal with the tough stuff first. Reset timing, and this dovetails in with CCL, Carnival, the shipping narrative that I provided in one of the free trade YouTubes. It dovetails in with silver that is selling off. So is this a bear trap in gold and silver is the question. We'll cover that. Thank you for your question. Looking into the sun a little bit with sunnies on. So if I don't get to read your name clearly, don't be insulted, but your question was noted. So silver and precious metals, which I said to you, I'm very bull, and absolutely nothing has changed in that. So I would love to say the name. It's too long and it's too dark. They do the names in grey, and it's bright and sunny here, so I'm bedazzled. So sorry for that. And what else do I want to talk to you about? So reset timing, Korean won. That's an FX trade, and equities generally as a whole. So let's start right at the beginning. Reset timing. Here's my take on this, and my premium guys that are on as well, and they'll be watching for fun if they're not enjoying their Saturday sport and just want to have a check-in. And as I've always said, big love to them and thank you for sharing. 45 of you on and 9 likes, appreciate that. Give it a retweet and a share through your media and a like if you feel inclined. That way everyone gets to get the news. So what's happening on reset? Let's get straight into it. Here's my underlying, and this is a fundamental view. Now, you know I did a very sharp, quite in-your-face video, the one with the welder's sunglasses. They will be still out there. I'm on my more conservative sunglasses, which for most people are quite wacky within their own right, but not the full, not quite the full whack job. But anyway, so what I said is make your trading decisions based technically. What I also say, though, is that every now and then you can get something very useful, fundamental, that is strong and robust. Remember, you can be deceived on fundamentals, particularly things like balance sheets, off-balance sheet items, fraud, all of that. So numbers can be deceiving. But a view like that which I've built in and around the direction they're taking us, and this will also cross over into this article I'm going to discuss, which is the end of property rights, the global social communism that is coming, the techno-corporatism communism. So all of this comes now. If you want to bring in that agenda, just think about this, guys. What kind of government are you looking to bring in? What kind of governance is going to be getting the upper hand when the newspaper article, and I'm going to add that in the description as an addendum to this go live, it's about Thomas Piketty's last book. He made it about inequality, the great issue. So we're going to talk about the Gini curve that's hollowed out. It's all trillionaires, hollowed out middle class, and poverty line. There's the hollowing out of the middle is full blown. How to Abolish Billionaires is his new book, a 1,200-page book on how to abolish the abolishing of billionaires. So this is the techno-corporate communism. So this dovetails with the reset. Now, if you're watching what I'm discussing here, you may realize that these things all have circular references to each other, right? To the stock market calls, the reset timing, what comes in placement of the reset, when will reset occur, and on whose watch. So there's lots of questions that I'm asking, and if I put the question to you, and I'm going to give it 30 seconds to wait, if you want to bring a highly extreme left government that is going to be dressed up as socialism, which sounds nice, who doesn't want to be social, but is in fact Pol Pot Mark II, Stalin Mark I, rolled up into a technocracy surveillance state Mark 3.0, because we've actually been in two versions, and it's getting ever tighter as we go into 5G and Internet of Things. What kind of, greetings from Norway. Yes, indeed. Thank you to the Norwegians. I hope I'm not causing any vitamin D envy, and that you're still having a nice Indian summer up there. I'd love to see Norway. And I'm also getting the comment about the 90-year GAN comments. It's very interesting in cycles. What kind of government follows if you're going that? Is it left or right? So these are the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask yourself. In other words, it's you who's got to move forward. It's you who's got to read the tea leaves of what's going down, and you can either get emotionally sucked in and not respond. Hello to India, yes indeed, and not respond and see, what do I do? It's all about, how do I play the game better? It's not, he did this to me, they did that, victimhood culture, screw all that. It is what it is. How do you play the game to come out best for yourself? That's what I'm here to help you do. And I'm particularly focused on that in my premium guys, and we talk day to day on that. But here on the YouTube channel, I want it for everybody, whether you have the means or not. Greetings from Hungary. Thank you, Hungary, for checking in. Lovely place. Better politics than many other places, I can say. At least the government seems to have a notion of who they work for at some occasions. Anyway, so carrying on with this Texas, autonomy for Texas. Stop paying to those, stop bailing those bankers out, keep your own money. So going back to this whole narrative is, what follows? What government do they want to crash it on to bring in this communism, this socialism, which is actually this techno-surveillance corporatist communism? That's where we're going, guys. Every article, and I'll be sharing one here, and as I said, I'll just share this link, how to abolish billionaires. The topic actually gets into the reduction of property rights, starting from the high end. So make it impossible for people to own multiple high value items, and then they'll slowly trigger it down. It's like a tax and a thin end of a wedge. Just get it in at principle and only affect the top tier, and slowly, like the super tax bracket, which was 40%, which was only supposed to affect less than 1% in Britain, is now a reality for all in the central banking governing world. So what I'm taking you to is trying to help you build the logic, and I'm just helping you with the questions. So if you're saying what kind of government is coming in, you should all be thinking leftist, extreme leftist. They'll never be labeled that by the mainstream media, but communism is extreme leftist. That is where they're taking us. That's what they want to bring us to. It's going to be technologically driven. So there's an immense amount of surveillance. We're going to have 5G, Internet of Things. You're going to have radiation, exact pinpointing. You're going to have kettles determining how often they're used, how much water you boil. You're going to have fridges knowing what weight of items you put in the freezer. You're going to have big data on exponential curve that's going like that. So these guys are going to be knowing, how loud you fart when you take a dump in your doctor medical toilet that checks how much cocaine you've got in your system, or whether you took your Prozac that morning, or losing too much water, all in the name of helping you. Remember, all this is here to keep you safe and helping you. We've also had a few things about pre-crime, which Trump is bringing in, and how technology can predict future gun shootings, because we've got a white nationalist problem. Whites are trying to destroy everybody. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm here to tell you. So we need to predict future shootings, so therefore we need more data on people, and we need to be doing modeling, and the whole pre-crime thing is coming totally into the wave. I will give a comment on BTC as well. Yes, I will try answer as many of your questions while maintaining the theme and flow of the video. So for those of you asking about this, yes, Ohio, get off grid, indeed. You pay 40% tax on 55K and 19% VAT in Germany. So basically we already have a 60% tax. That's right. So the whole thing, most of these things are about tax extraction, more data and more extraction, and also turning you off anything that is assets that have got valuable. So what has happened is that the middle class that had assets, that had chunks of equities, particularly in the US, and had fairly big homes, have actually benefited and got property booms that have worked in their favor, and equity booms. They're going to end that. The only people who are going to get the money are the state. You're going to see way more leasehold property, kind of like the property that goes down in the UK, and things will revert back to government. You'll never own in perpetuity again. They want to end the concept of ownership and perpetuity for you, and they want to recycle and extract at every bend. Hence the death taxes and all these other things that they do. Anyway, so reset timing, let's get back to the main theme here, is they want an extreme leftist government in, and to justify that, you first force and sig something right if you want to force it hard left. It's kind of like you turning into a driveway that's hard 90-degree turn when you go. You actually first push left to make the arc to bend right. So you have to piss everybody off about the right to properly engender an extreme leftist solution that you sell as the new center ground with a bit of radical thinking injected with it. So how do they do that? And you might think, hang on, where's this tie up with CCL, Korean One, and all these shares that you're supposed to be updating? Don't just be tactical and thinking there. I will get to that point. I'm trying to detail a narrative for you for understanding timing. So there was, when we put those YouTubes out, saying it's possible that they'll let it break right away because they were escalating this China narrative and all of that. They've put the genie back into the bottle with that whole stuff, calmed it all down, returned the focus, and you're getting a kind of more risk-on environment again. So this is what I'd call a grid test. It's kind of like switching the power grid off in a small area of New York to see what's the squeal factor, who squeals loudest, what stops working hardest, what are the net effects, etc., etc. It's kind of like 9/11 when they measured the temperature for the 3 days afterwards, and it was standard deviation higher because they said, well, there's global dimming, and they made their green agenda notification out of that, saying that airlines pollution is actually saving us from an even higher element of global warming. So 9/11, don't worry, they didn't waste the opportunity of having no planes in the sky. They were there to do tests and sell you a new narrative off the basis of those tests, depending on whether you thought they were valid or not. So so that's how they cunningly dovetail a lot of these themes that they're pushing. When you hear the green agenda, what I want you to understand is communism. So this is going to be extreme taxation, compliance enforced on you on behavior, and further control and surveillance. So green means, new Green Deal, new everything means greater restraints on you, greater charges on you, further extraction, otherwise social shaming. So let's be clear, if your government truly was concerned about green, we would not still be running, and we would have ended many decades ago, the internal combustion engine. Hey, Horim, it's the watermelon agenda, green on the outside, communist red on the inside. Like that one. I must get your name. The comments fade so fast, but you get credit for that one. +1 from me on that one. The watermelon agenda. Who's it? With a Z. Zorn. Well done. Worth copying. Anyway, so yeah, green on the inside, but very much deep red on that. So understand that. Let's be clear, the Canadian tar sands and all of that, they are flooding us with oil to keep the price down, because clearly we're in a depression that never ended from 2008. They don't give a monkeys about the quality of the landscape that they're destroying. They gave fracking license away under Obama to create a disproportionate supply that would then destabilize the oil market and lead to deflationary oil price levels to mask the inflation they are creating in your wallet that is caused by the proliferation of money and QE. So if they were truly climate carers, they wouldn't do this. Of course, this little, she's like me, she's dyslexic or autistic, Greta Thunberg, is completely child abuse verging on and needs to be freed, like Assange, from this perverse little roadshow that the Open Society is funding, and this thing doesn't go away. What can I own that doesn't require my name on it? It's a very good question. Get out of all things state. I think someone said, Armstrong says, get out of all things state. I want to just say, I didn't want to sound off on him. I don't know of him on a great level. I think I've seen 1 or 2 YouTubes, but he's definitely right. So get out of, make sure you don't have names that are state owned. So anyway, so what does this mean for timing, and how does this all tie into the equities and the trades that haven't yet worked for you and have actually cost you money? And they've cost me some money already as well. And I'll tell you how you play that, so that they don't blow your stack. I hope after the YouTube, you didn't go all in without money management and just jump into the equities. The sad point is I had an extra, it's always going to be like, and it's going to sound like, yeah, right, of course you did say that, Francis. I had an extra equity I wanted to give you, and I'll give you the name now, and I'll do a technical one for you later on it. And it's PAA, it's Pan American, the oil lines company, and it's surprisingly the one that, despite this equity reinflation, has continued to hold its low levels and continues to look very soft and has a huge RRR. So I'll do a technical chart one for you. It's one that our premium area has been looking at for a long time, and we actually expect to see it fall below $4, and it's in the low 20s range, 21 range. I haven't checked it how it finished the week. And I've carried long-term short, and it is one of the few that hasn't rallied. So we bearish oil because they're going to keep, they know there's a depression, they're going to keep a lid on the prices getting too high. And you can have a look at the charts of PAA later. By the way, there's mini series for you down below. Share, there's a mini series. Buy your gold and silver. We'll cover the bullion. This is a great opportunity to blow off first leg in a multi-leg move. In fact, you can even argue that we are in a super macro, huge bull trend, and we've just finished what would probably be a 7-year bear. So that is how huge the mega macro bull. You know, if you talk to an electrician and someone who looks at big charts, and I encourage doing that every now and then, gold is low was actually the 2001 period. So gold and precious metals. This recent sell-off on silver, which was smackdown, and we saved a little bit on our Bitcoin in anticipation that it'll triple off a little bit, and then you real delay. Little clue for you. Sometimes if you're getting risk off and you're seeing those other assets, this is the value of looking at multi-markets. We were able to get out and get back in a little bit lower on Bitcoin. And we also were covered in case it had a full spill. It didn't. The relative strength there in Bitcoin, by the way, during that silver very steep sell-off, actually is a very important clue, and it's something we watch for. And I was able to just warn the guys that we could have a little triple off, and I actually just lightened and re-added. It saves you a few bob. So these techniques can sometimes help you, but you don't want to be too overactive. Anyway, so we're back. We're still biased bull Bitcoin. So anyway, going back, tying all these loops, because I'm talking about each one a little bit, and I'm not finishing any one because I'm trying to respond also to points. that are coming up on this chat. So I wanted to start tying some of these loops together. If it's going to be a leftist government that comes in, an extreme leftist that will be sold to you as a radical, positive thinking, UBI. This author, by the way, in France talks about giving 200 euros or 120,000 euros to every European, etc. It all sounds so awesome. Who isn't going to vote? All the idiots. All the leftist idiots not going to vote for people crossing the age of 25 as they turn 25, getting 120,000 euros. Like, here, have a little bonus. And you think you're not paying for that. You think they aren't going to institutionally halve the money in your wallet every year to not pay for those kiddies that are going to make dumb fuck decisions with their 120 grand burning a hole in their pockets, unless they really still listen to their parents, which many at that age certainly don't. Anyway, so this is a UBI alternative Mark 1. Despite UBI failing in the Scandi countries that it was tested in, I think Finland had a stab. They are running a UBI, and they did this poor black female with kids, you know, how nice it was to buy presents for her grandsons and actually have X, Y, and Z to eat instead of living off bread crusts. Like, emotive story, highly emotive story for someone who's really bombed out at the bottom of the barrel, female, ethnic, all this, you know, it's all, you know, that's right, helping the people that go without, you know. So the whole thing is designed to emotionally respond to you, have no rational argument. It's all designed to give you emotional response. If people say you're cruel and mean, it's probably because you're applying rational thinking. That makes you cruel and mean, and you realize that there's no free lunch, it comes from else. So this is, as I say, the leftist objective. So what does this tell us about retiming? How does this tie into the equities and the Korean won and all of this story? If they are going to, and this is the logic, this is a fundamental logic, so I'm discerning the arguments that are technical and that are fundamental, but it is a timing related issue within the fundamentals. So it has a certain aspect of technical. Fundamentals are broadly not timing orientated. They just say undervalued, overvalued, fairly priced, and you do your numeric assessment. It doesn't tell you when any undervaluation will revert to mean or even surpass and overshoot, and it doesn't tell you when any overvalued assets will revert to mean or even undershoot, and or by how much. It just says don't be long if it's overvalued, don't be short if it's undervalued, and could readjust. So timing typically is a technical concept. So just write that down if you do pen and paper. Timings are typically a technical concept. So this tells us, someone's mentioning Trump there again, can't read the name, into the dazzle of the sunlight, but thank you for all your comments. I am able to read them. I just can't see your names because I put them in gray. The comments, thankfully, in white. So if that is to happen, what would probably be the outcome is that they want to crash and cause ignominy. Everyone understand what I mean when I say cause ignominy on a particular line of thought? And this is why Trump is the great antagonist. He's designed to be loathed. He's doing his job brilliantly. That doesn't mean I'm a Trump supporter or a Trump fan. They're all Punch and Judy controlled people. In fact, I'm not a fan of any politics at all in the US. It's all controlled. He's given Jerusalem to a nation that had no claim on it. He's given them the Golan Heights. He's moving embassies so that the annexation will continue. Netanyahu's going to annex further land on the West Bank where they've made settlements. I mean, there's some terrifying stuff about Israel largely going to run the surveillance in the US. Now all the contractors are in. There's a terrifying amount of technological, the Talpiot program, the 8200s, in all of these tech companies that have spawned out of that are all doing business, that all get all the IP of any major corporations from Google, etc., that have all the back doors to Microsoft, all of this stuff. So let's not go down that rabbit hole for now, but let's just recognize that these guys aren't any of them your friend. But if I say he's doing a very good job, that doesn't mean I'm endorsing him for what he's supposed to do for his masters. He's absolutely doing that. He's dividing people into hate and love. The harder the leftists hate, the greater those that don't identify with leftists will love him. So he's created interest in politics. Instead of benign indifference, which is actually what we want non-participation and benign indifference, he's successfully created aggressive debate where there is either you're in that camp or you're in that camp. So he is perfectly polarizing and divisive. That's exactly what he was designed to do, and that's exactly what he's done. And he'll come out and make some crazy facts statement that's totally bullshit and inaccurate, and that's exactly what he's designed to do, because the people that hate him will go, that's inaccurate, he's such a liar, he doesn't even understand the basic concept, and they can call him dumb and an idiot. And the others will say, but the point he's making is X, Y, and Z, and that's the real thing. So he's perfectly divisive and loathed. And in the end, the great communism will come from those, the people like Scher and the people in Hollywood and Spielberg and the people at Google that are fiddling with the AI to make sure that such a thing never happens again, and that think that they can justify certain search outcomes and tweak algorithms so that people that they don't like get downgraded, their material gets less exposure on the platform, etc., etc. All the manipulators, that this is all part of the divide and conquer. Build a wall on the beach, and you have the water splashing against one side and the sand stacking up on the other. And don't be the water or the sand. Be the observer, the indifferent observer of everyone's behavior, and see the big picture, and that's how you look after yourself in a crazy, crazy climate. Couple of likes for that statement. Come on, that was accurate, and that's very powerful. Even I'm feeling it, and I'm going, yeah, write that down. I want to write it down myself and make sure that I remember. Anyway, that's a bit too narcissistic, but hey, what can you do? You got sunlight and sunglasses on, you a bit of self-love going down. Anyway, so yeah, share it and like. Remember the mini-series register. If you want. Going on with that, what that means is Trump wins the 2020 election. I'm pretty confident that that will probably happen. Can I tell you outright? Absolutely I can't. Absolutely I don't know. I don't see the pedophilic Biden even getting the nomination. He's so creepy. I don't, maybe Warren, Kamala Harris, wow. I don't know, there's nothing to like about anything there any more than Trump himself. But whoever they choose will probably lose again. I suspect there's a decent chance it'll be a woman. It's either Bernie or a woman, maybe. But Bernie now is almost not radical enough. Bernie, the extreme socialist, is almost not radical enough. All things coming out are more radical. Yang is like the UBI guy. These are all the communist states. These people are all looking, it's all made to create that all these people are coming up with ideas that are all similar at the same time. So everybody feels this is an idea that's time has come. If you keep getting these feedback events, this sounds like an idea that's time has come. Meanwhile, they're all being funded by the same octopus to say similar things, so that they create this ground approval for this new, and all the sheep just follow. The rest of the herd just follow. They create the lead steers to charge in the left direction, and the rest of the herd just thinks there's a reason that we should be charging in the left direction and starts charging with them and meandering in that distance. I showed in one of my videos in trading how hard it is to stand on a platform waiting for the door that will open there when everyone is walking with the direction of the train. You feel this immense urge to move with them and go, well, I'll just walk one door up or just one more. And you break with your discipline, even though the door's going to stop right there. I've done this. It's part of technical analysis. Why technical analysis? Observing levels. So the herd, we will all herd naturally. Even when we don't want to herd, you will herd. Because you'll feel left out, you'll look dated, you'll look behind the times. People will wonder you're not understanding. So the extreme leftist government that these punks want to bring in, that's going to do this technological communism, that's going to start undermining property rights, starting at the top and certain ground areas, is definitely on the way. So what that means for me broadly, and I'll tie this in now to the equities and the currencies, is that Trump gets through so that they can crash and do the financial reset, and all the crazy ideas for Fed coin and all of this stuff can start to manifest as part of the solution during that period. Because everyone wants to breathe a sigh of relief that all this bad news and all this shit happened, and he did it, he caused it, this stupid Republican fool started a trade war with China, now look what he's caused. all of the stuff. No one will look at the fact that this is an end of cycle debt bomb that was building under every Democrat and Republican from the formation of the Fed in 1913. No one will look at the picture. They're all stuck. This is called recency syndrome. It's called the fallacy of recency. Everybody applies anything they've learned recently to the current situation, or blames anything very recent for any outcome. This is called the concept of recency. They know you have it. We all have it. If you've just learned a new lesson, you know, quality is better than size, quality is better than size, and then you're looking at something and you're going in around the shop and then you see two items and one looks, it's like it finished in chrome and the other one's in plastic and the plastic one's bigger but the chrome one is smaller, you'll go, quality is better than size, and you'll make the decision, you know, and you'll spend more slightly. So yeah, I prefer Gabbard, but she's too anti-war, she's too anti-control structure. I don't think she's going to get traction. She's being left out of the debates. Thank you for saying so. Awesome. That's Heather. Appreciate you, Heather. Lovely to see some ladies online as well, following the good stuff. We appreciate you all, and particularly those that are in lower number. So what does that mean? They will go for a Trump in 2020, in my view, and then they will crash it on him. Now, there's a lot of BS, Bretton Woods events, and all of this. These are your community. Says, love you guys, and Francis, you love all these people. They all think like you. We are a hub. We are the hive, and all the bees that make real honey and add real value in this world are on this YouTube channel. So these are your brethren as well. Love each other. These are your support system. They're people that will help you here. There's knowledge. There is a cloud of knowledge in here, and we want to share it. And I'm trying to organize that and do as much of that as possible while joining dots for us. I won't always be accurate. Anyway, so that means crash in quite soon after Trump. And they do like numerology a bit as well. They like sevens. We had 7 and 8 was the crash. I think 21, which is kind of the third 7, is ringing true for me. It's going to start happening almost straight away after the election. And that's going rolling into, yeah, great, Heather, South African lady in the UK. So they're going to start rolling it very soon after the election, I think, because they need a full 3 years to really bury him in ignominy. And he's going to make outrageous statements, become ever more cranky. Manila, yay, Manila, you're up late. It's good to see you. Thank you for checking in. He's going to become perverse, and he's going to be, you know, he'll be like Bush at the second end of post 9/11. There will be the idea is there'll be such a sigh of relief to be rid of that, you know, people, he almost doesn't hang out. Bush in his last years was more texts almost in the White House, you know. He just couldn't, they just didn't want him there. He didn't want to be there, and everything was being run on remote control for a while. Such was the ignominy that he was held in, and the kind of headlines. And it's going to be a similar setup. And this is going to bring in, as I say, this leftist thing. Now, what does that mean? It means that a lot of the big crashes we're anticipating, whilst I didn't want to miss the trade, and so I said, here's CCL. This is shipping. This is what's coming for shipping in 2020. Here's WFC, Wells Fargo Corporation. Financials are grossly underperforming. That's still true, even though they've all rallied. And it's in great head and shoulder structure, and we're in this right shoulder. The overall narrative on the big time frame charts actually hasn't changed that much. We were just very close to a tipping point, and they were escalating the China, US-China trade to such a point that I said, Jesus, are they actually going to splash this early, and am I going to miss this? So I need to get it. I need to get these opinions out on these key good quality shorts early. I'm hoping, and I should maybe have done a better job of being clear about this if I wasn't, and I apologize, that you didn't go all in lock, stock and barrel, because they have this ability to, and you've got to remember, actually equities, I prefer the FX trade of all of them, USD Korean won. I do very much like PAA, and it was the last one I wanted to give you. Go have a look at it, and I'll do a separate technical clip later on, maybe during the course of next week. And that one's not rallied at all, in spite of a full reflation. Why are equities going up, is the question you might ask, including ones that you think are weak. that are technically set up for going down, why they're going up? Are you just out and out wrong? So that might be a question some of you are thinking. So let's address that. Here's why equities are going up. We have NERP almost throughout Europe. It's going for 70%. It's in the mid 60s. It's going for 70%. Europe bonds are all negative. Yeah, not all, but I've given you an indication of the percentage, but they are flipping that way. The US, through the Fed, that I said, don't believe them, they're going to be U-turning. I told you this a few times, so we were accurate on that. I've suddenly realized they don't diverge from the rest of the world. They're still connected to the rest of the world. There's no balance sheet reduction going on. They did a massive U-turn and now they're dropping. So the dollar had a lot of strength supported that period. Now, Euro, Draghi has said, you've got to accept you're never going to get 2% inflation, or you've got to go extreme QE and be prepared to buy bonds indefinitely. In other words, the central bank monetizes ridiculous spending programs. So government keeps getting bigger in this economy by virtue of the fact that they also control your money. So they create more of their money, government gets access to it, government then does social expenditure programs, maybe will promise UBI in future, buys bonds. So they're the biggest investor in the bond market in Europe. They're buying VW's bonds, Germany's bonds, and now they're actually controlling the price actually of equities, because if the bond is holding strong and is well supported, it lends strength to the equities. They will be buying equities directly if they're not already in time. In other words, the communism is happening. They just print the money and they buy all the private companies up in the name of seeking inflation. And we've got to keep subdividing our currency, to make things expensive for you, so that we can say there's 2% inflation. But the more you do that, the more people are in fear, and the less they spend, and the more they try, save and invest. So QE policies are actually further adding to the deflationary. They know that because they can see it in the stats, and it's exactly what they want because it gives them license to do more of it. And with more of it, they slowly become owner of more of the private enterprises by virtue that they've been allowed to invest in debt and equity in currencies. So what actually happens is you have negative yielding. They borrow for free. In fact, it devalues. It automatically has a devaluer every time they create a debt. There's automatic devaluation, while you still have a personal inflation rate that is higher than you realize and positive for all that you buy. They use that money to invest it where they get a positive returns in corporation bonds, which are not all negative, and equities where they get earnings and dividends, and they now, as government, own private companies. You see why I call this communism? These companies are being taken over on the creep, on the sly, and you're not seeing it. I'm saying that many of you are seeing it. I'm saying that the greater world is not seeing that, and they don't frame it for what it is. And this is what's going down. 126 of you on so far, and a very generous 46 likes. I appreciate that, and I thank all of those that did. Anyway, so with that happening, they reflate equities, because now you've got a new buyer in town who can make as much money as he flipping likes. And the equities are one of the few things that actually pay a positive yield. So you can borrow on a negative yield, create money, and invest it on a positive yield. Who wouldn't want that game? Especially as governments. They've created a game where they can keep destroying your buying power through QE and negative interest rates, keep creating money that they can then put in a positive yield and pocket the difference. So the debt reduces without them paying any of it off. They can do a 100-year bond, and each month it's getting less, compounded less at this negative interest rate, put it in an equity where they're destroying the company. They get the capital gains, and they actually get a share of the earnings, and then eventually they're such a big owner, they put government officials on the board of VW and Mercedes and you name it all. So why are equities going up? Because the goddamn government that controls your money supply is devaluing your money so fast, and those are still paying, even though terrible value, the P's are ridiculously high, they pay a positive yield in an environment where the biggest market, the debt markets, remember this is second biggest to Forex and far bigger than the equity market, the debt markets are negative. And the US is going to drop rates soon, further, and is going to head in the direction of the rest of the world. The developed world of Europe is 70, going on 70% negative. Yes, you walk alone, he says. Looking forward to the Liverpool meeting the Newcastle today. I respect not all of you are football fans, so I won't say any further on that, but I will be down at my local with a cocktail, thinking of my earlier live stream to all of you, explaining the great game. So the great game is equities are actually going to be generally strong. And if I did anything different, I would probably have focused more on the currency trades that I see coming, and been more clear-cut about getting the timings following the free trade. Because I want you to win, regardless what you do in the money. It's kind of, you know, okay, if you did really well, you come on board. It doesn't matter. I want you to win. We've given a few free trades, and I'm sorry for those that probably didn't understand and may have taken small nibble of a losses on that. So timing does matter. It looked like they were going to do a full-blown test and throw it over the edge, and they might have let it go completely. And I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is not happening in 2021. I've got to trust the chart. The Korean won edging up. Now they've taken it all back down. And you'll note also the other risk-off assets, which are precious metals, silver, gold, yes, to a degree Bitcoin, crypto, are going down and have been reined back because they don't like the message they tell you, and the equities are going up. So the best trades are investment long precious metals, bullion vault link below, go in and knock yourself out, buy monthly a certain amount. You will be able to get lots of stock. And some of you might say, but geez, it came down hard. Yes, it did. Go look at your monthly chart though. Remember the big game. In fact, treat 2000, 2001 as your bottom. You've had your first leg. So for those of you who don't understand Elliott, and I wish I had a pen to draw on my my little computer thingy here, but let me just draw with this finger. Bear with me, and I'm going to try to do a nice virtual draw for you. When you start a bull market in Elliott, you go from 2000, 2001, bull run 200 to 1927, I think it was, gold. Yeah. You could have at the lowest points, around $4 silver, 4 to 8. I'll have to check exactly at 2000 what it was. I'm a bit murky. It could have been 8, could have been in the 4 to 8 range, all the way to 50. The two metals that's of interest. So that is your Elliott wave leg 1. Yes? That was a period from 2000 to 2011. Your 11-year bull run first leg. Wave 1, they call it. Up from $200, give or take 250 at the around, to 1920. Yes, so think how many times that went up. It's about going on 8. Think your silver. I wish let me just check the laptop. It's really pissing me off that I haven't remembered what silver was in the 2001. I'm not always talking about that. But anyway, I'll double check what silver's low was while I'm talking to you. I've got the surface here. Have a little look. At the same time, one of you maybe will tell me. Anyway, so at the same time, that was leg 1 in Elliott wave leg. You then had 11 till 19, roughly 6.5, roughly 4 USD. Thank you for helping me out there. That saves me ferreting around. You've then had a 6.5 correction in a macro bull. Yes, for many it's a bear market because they're not looking at the wood for the trees. Yeah. It's a 6-year, it's lengthy, 6.5 year. You know, you're halfway through 11, and now you're running at halfway 19. It's actually almost it's 6 years. So correction, a long correction. Lots of tricks were thrown at that to put a lid on that gold market. So you have your wave 1, wave 2 correction. So the even numbers are always the correction. Now, if you know Elliott wave, chaps and chapettes, if you know Elliott wave, which is the biggest leg? I'm going to wait 15 dramatic seconds for the smartest man in the room to tell us. Which is the biggest leg in the Elliott wave 5 wave movement. Yep, there's a man with 3. I've got to leer a little closer. Oh, my eyes are too bad. Congratulations, all of you that said 3. And there's many of you, so it shows the quality of the amazing people on here. Give yourself all a like by liking my YouTube. How's that for deception? Deception and prostitution. Yes, okay, I know, it's very narcissistic. 3 is the biggest. So what does that mean? What does that mean about our lows that we probably won't see again down at the 1,000? And was it 49, 1,049 level? You've now got a 3-leg. Now, I'm going to test you a little bit more on your Elliott, and I'm not an Elliott wave technician, but there's a lot to be said for Elliott wave, and I don't diss it. And there's a lot of things in technical analysis I properly take down and critique for just adding no value, and I debunk and I eliminate. Elliott theory is not one of them. What typically is the size length that people allow for a 3rd wave? In other words, give us an idea of how much bigger it may be. Give us an idea of how much bigger it may be. So we're at the gold low of 1,049 odd. How bigger will next leg? Yes, there's a smart man, and he's gone and put it in, and he deserves his name calling out. And once again, I'll squint and not see it. 1.618, in other words, just under 62% bigger than the first wave. Now, you recall your first wave was in actual fact the better part of an 8x from the 200, 250s up to just sub the other level. Some guys are also saying you can get overperformance on that. By the way, you can get 1.75. You can also maybe just get a 1.5. This is not an exact science where everyone will tell you put the pin right there, that day, that time, that amount exactly. It doesn't work like that, but it's very good geometrical structure as a broad rule. So understand the concept. This is not a game of exactitudes. This is a game of probability-based assessments with good geometry likelihoods. Yep. So that means your move up from 1,049 is now about to have its longest leg to the upside if this is what we think it is. The great reset and the great failure of the financial system. And you will preserve monetary value no matter how ridiculous, the control structure gets with printing. So you can absolutely kill it. You can absolutely kill it on that up leg. And it may be 62% bigger than the original move. And if they actually go stupid with printing, remember the dollar that you're measuring it in. And by the way, we shouldn't all be on dollars. Dollars is the global base currency generally. But in actual fact, if you're in Britain, you should be looking at the pound. If you're a South African, you should look at the rand. If you're in the Philippines, Manila, we've had some folks check in from there, you should be looking at it in your local currency. It's going to be even bigger. The more idiotic they get on this major meltdown is your real overperformance. So actually, in my opinion, there's real probability that you're going to overshoot substantially because the cure is going to be the same that they always do. The creation of more money. And that will mean the valuation of that gold against that new dollar, that new rand, that new pound, that new euro. That new euro is half what that old euro used to be because there's twice as many of them running around the place. So think about that. You don't want to value too much. You are valuing everything in terms of your currency that is dictated by your current geography. And they are dynamic. They're not static. They're being proliferated. It's kind of like being a log in the river and saying, that's my point on the riverbank. No, that's my point on the riverbank. No, that's my point on the riverbank. And you're moving the whole time downstream. You've got to stick to the tree that was on the bank that is static, that holds real value, and watch the fact that you are devaluing. Now think if that tree actually had moved and ran up to the mountain, how fast it's moving away from you with you in the river as a log going the other way. You're getting a double end moving away from each other. So the possibility of moonscope. So for those of you that are asking about the silver and gold, and we're going to go, and we're covering everything in this YouTube. I'm taking time out here with you. I hope you enjoy it. Give me a few likes if you appreciate it. And as I say, there's a mini series. There's stuff for you in the notes there. Go in and jump on. There's non-farm. You can book to have a chat with one of our guys if you want to become part of the sniper circle. It's totally up to you. But with the gold having that mega leg, that third mega leg, it's going to be more about the overall currency destruction than the rising price of gold. Everyone's going to talk about the rising price of gold. It's actually the devaluing of your inflated to infinity.com quantitative easing NERP policies of your satanic central banking cartel that has always worked for its insiders and its protection of its core stakeholders, aka the banking system. It is a private entity made up of bankers. The people are appointed by bankers. It was established on Jekyll Island. I've been there. I did a YouTube from there. They do not have your interests in hearts. Every time someone asks a question about inequality, they say, yes, we're so concerned about inequality. And they juice the stock market, which holds all the shares in the elite rich that are all balance sheet rich with equity and properties. They keep the rates low and they juice the assets. For those that are assets light, they have no capex appreciation as a result. And remember, it's not capex appreciation, it's maintaining of value in a fiat devaluation. So you all sitting on a greased pole, and you started at 100 meters high, where you have a great view and a better quality of life, and you're slipping all the way down where the piranhas at the bottom are jumping all the way. And if you're not climbing that pole faster than you're slipping down in their measure, you're going backwards. The pier is gold and it stands still, in truth. But when people surge by, it actually goes up in relative value. And that's when the pier will almost look like it does. So the pier is almost on floats, and the tide comes in, the pier raises up, and you're the greasy monkey in the piranha-ridden Amazonian river, and you're slipping down a pole on a pier that'll float up away from you. So it is absolutely a bull market, and it is only just about to have its biggest move coming, and there will be a correction, and there will still be a twist of the knife, blow off. That will be wave 5. So the 2 evens, 2 and 4, you've just finished 2, in my view. You've just finished 2. So, you know, these guys are going for full-blown and devaluation. So equities, shorting the equities, you really have to have the timing right of the reset, and they will snap back and they will go to new highs. Actually, long run, general equities, especially the tech surveillance, I'm a massive bull. The one retailer, aka Amazon, every time I search to buy something, all I get on first page cooperation of Google and Amazon, the corporatocracy, is to buy Amazon. I don't get independent retailers anymore. You've got to go onto page 2 to get it. We're in the one retailer world, guys. These guys are slowly finishing the scaling out of mega cash cows. So actually, if you wanted to go long certain things, and the crash isn't now, you could go long the tech corporatocracy. Hold your nose, because here's coin, but it'll probably go up. When we have the mega crash, it could be very violent and very uncomfortable. So I certainly wouldn't do it with leverage. But the rebound solution in the devaluation of money will take them to new highs, and these things will go to infinity.com. Certain fields and areas, though, won't wear the reset at all well. And those are the ones that I've already steered you in. Shipping with new rules and regs, energy, the banking system, which can't live with negative rates, aka Wells Fargo, but is getting reflated now during this genie back in the bottle period. And what was the other aspects I spoke of? CCLs, the Korean ones, and FX, to it specifically. Wells Fargo were the other ones. Now, PAA hasn't gone up, and you're going to like it. Go have a look at it, but wait for a rally to get in and add slowly. So what have I done on my Korean one? Because it's gone down hard, kind of like the silver. So that was fear of risk. Now it's risk off. So I had a number of entries in case it ran. I could see it technically, it was decaying. So I started peeling them off and locking in small losses. So I had about 5 or 6 entries. I've held on to 1 or 2, all in small incremental size. They're all red. I'm losing, and I'm okay with it. It's well sized, and I'm going to hodl them. And if it goes really low and I see it's bottoming, I add one at the bottom and I take my worst entry off. So I'm keeping 2 of what was 6 entries. By the time we trigger, I will have total of about 10 entries. At the moment on IG, you can only get half a pound a point at them. So you've got to add size. This is technique. You've got to add size slowly, and you've got to take them off and be quite happy to eat a mistake, because it's like you're pinging on a wall, on one of these metal walls, waiting to hear where the metal, one of those tapiologists on train tracks, waiting to hear where there's the weakness. And you've got to ping a few times, and you're paying for each ping. It's like someone who's drilling for oil. I'm telling you, there's a huge oil find there. You're going to become a millionaire. I've put you in the right square hectare, and you've done a few drills, and as yet you haven't hit. Don't look elsewhere. Don't lose the faith. It's there. You've got to keep pinging. So what do? I buy in again at where it looks like it's bottoming, and I take off my worst entry that's got negative. So I lock in that loss, it's fine. And then I'm holding it at about 2. When we start to base out, I'll start accumulating the entries, 3, 4. If it starts building nicely and having good positive setups, small time frame HVFs, as per our methodology, you can learn how to do that. I will scale in further. By the time it triggers our just-in-time entry, I will want 10 entries. So I'm wearing it slow, and they like marks, they keep me in. They could go quite a bit lower, and we could get compression and another setup in what I call our funnel setup. This Korean one is a beautiful trade. I stand by all these trades, and it's just a matter of timing. And I think if you're asking for the timing, so you then say, okay, when, Francis? I'm looking at the fundamental side of the coin and saying, they've put this thing on ice for a while. This is going to pause for a bit, and then it will run. And when's that period? Post-Trump re-election. Stay very close. Watch for very uneasily tight and low volatility in your USD Korean won. When everyone's getting bored and thinks this thing's gone to sleep, it's doing nothing, start gradually accumulating. At the moment, it's getting cheaper. You can watch it fall. You can get a very small entry occasionally, an average cost a few in. You might eat a bit of red to start. But when the thing goes and halves, you're going to be laughing. And as I say, depending on your sizing and your capability, it's going to be a rainmaker trade. But you've got to stick and stand by it. So there's going to be a Southeast Asian crisis. This is going to be probably, the other thing that makes me think it's going to be Trump that's around, because he's the guy that does this whole agitation on China and the Twitter fest. So that whole thing about currency manipulation and rewarn, he's the natural guy, he's got that theme. You're not going to get a Democrat that's going to be hard on the Chinese like Trump is, just with a different voice. So that it could happen, but it's not as likely. He's already got that horse by the reins. He's just going to reheat that narrative once he gets in for second term. He's going to say, it's the time to do it. Hi, Sniper. Thank you. Yes, hi to you as well. So this is good. By the way, on the precious metal, someone asking about platinum. The only precious metal that I'm strong long, so I've taken all profits off on silver. I could see it turning bad and decaying. It had already run all our targets. It did our double bottom target. On our charts that we shared, we've got all our HVFs all the way up, getting smaller and smaller, telling us that it was tiring, and then our double bottom target with a blow off through the 19s, and then we closed. We did get a little bit of the pullback, but when we were out, and we're macro long, but investment still long, and investment still buying, and then no selling on investment, but the leverage trading on the way up on this move. And we will get a new chance to do leverage trading to the long side. Not interested in taking any shorts. You'll feel a fool losing money against the macro. So precious metals only long. Right now, the one that I am long, that my premium guys know about, is palladium. And that's holding up. And it had a major boom. It benefited with, it was very, very strong. And then it sat out this recent run to a degree because it had almost done too much. It had a lovely structure set up. I shared it on Twitter. If you're not following at the Market Sniper, at the Red Sniper and at the Crypto Sniper, then you will be missing out. Occasionally, as I say, I will throw a little bone out of what we discuss in our premium area out your way. So palladium, I am long. That is XPD. X for X-ray, for Papa, D for Delta, and then against the USD. Go look at the chart structure, and the target for that is 25. So you will get a run there. The others are cycling back. So that's the reason why the equities currently are drawing down against you. If you're too big, just cut in half, eat your loss. That's fine. Cut it in 3/4 if you were too big. Do very moderate execution and keep a marker only of technical significance only in your P&L so that you don't forget about this trade. Put alerts in your trading view or any other trading platform that you're working on for the key levels around it. So tripwires that tell you if it's pushing lower or it's starting to base out and push up. If you want guidance, I've given you guidance when I think it'll be the reheat and all fall down. In between then, there will be opportunities to get amazing entries on the way up. Melt up before melt down, possible. I'm not too sure what you're talking on there. Hotel Echo, Lima, Lima, Echo. Yes, someone spelling out hello. Yes, the economy is, and that one faded too quickly before I could read it. So that's the guidance. What did I want to tell you about the kind of a reset sniper topic? Yeah, this economy is so strong we need negative interest rates. So they are determined to chase this inflation target, and that permissions them. So when they say we want an inflation target, what they mean is we want a currency destruction level where prices are going up so much that it counteracts the deflation of you not spending and getting into debt fast enough. And we want to make our debt cheaper, and in fact not only cheaper to the point that actually it pays to issue debt because it gets reduced in a real positive inflation environment where your inflations are all positive. We've created a fake inflation number that currently isn't measuring high enough. So because we control the stats, we can make more money, we can create more money and buy things that give a positive yield that we pay a negative yield on. So we get paid for creating debt that we can then invest and own companies. So the government system has found a way to buy all the major private corporates, and this brings me back to the communism of our times. They've found a way where they get paid for creating money. They don't have any interest to pay. They actually get a positive carry. The more money they create, the more of the positive carry they get. It keeps reducing with time in a compounding fashion. So remember, no matter how small, interest compounds. So it goes like this, and then it really accelerates down. It's like you're paying off your mortgage. You pay nothing in the first 15 years, and the final 3 or 4, you pay the most of the much higher percentage of the capital. Go look at those curves. So they've realized that debt is losing its value. They're proliferating the money. They can keep printing, and they will own everything, including you. So this article that I wanted to mention with this guy who wrote this book, he's a Frenchman, and the first one was translated in many. He's going to be one of these promoted by Open Society type guys. His name is Thomas Piketty. Thomas Piketty, and the article is Fortune magazine, like Newsweek, Time, and The Economist, completely controlled, Open Society type, supportive, lefty, bring on the communism rag of the control structure. Abolishing Billionaires is his new book. And in this book, this genius, sacred property, the time has come to exit this phase of making property sacred, to go beyond capitalism. Now, what does that actually translate? You don't get to own anything anymore. Get the goyim off the land, Protocol of Zion, fascinating. And this is how they look to do it, all in the name of this new socialism where you don't get to own. And they'll start at the top. Don't say, oh, it's okay, it's only billionaires being affected. They all crooks and scoundrels, it's okay. It's the same old story. You let them come for your neighbor, the next day they're coming for you. This all has to be absolutely resisted. And everybody hates a billionaire. The culture of envy is that everybody hates a billionaire. I don't hate a billionaire. I don't hate a billionaire that's self-made, that doesn't work with open society like Bill Gates does with his vaccination narrative and all of that. I don't hate what I'd call unfamous, highly rich people with hundreds of millions that have built real businesses. I definitely don't hate them, and I don't want any of them to have any of their stuff stolen. Why? Because it's not such a big step that they'll be coming for the people in between them and me, and for myself, and for you. So the whole point is we don't want that, because it's the principle. Once they've established the principle, it's a thin edge of a wedge. It's like that super tax that then becomes a tax for everybody. So this is how they widget things in, guys. And this radical thinker, it's time to end billionaires. Who's not, unfortunately, in this leftist-driven new millennial world, everybody is anti a billionaire. Oops, a bit of wind coming up here. Everyone is anti the billionaire. Yeah, banning cash transactions above 10K. They've already killing the cash. They've essentially won that one. There's a lingering cash. They're gonna whittle it away so slowly you're not even gonna hear it die. It's like someone who's braking in the car and bringing your car to a stop. You're trying to get somewhere and he's your driver. He keeps looking to you, but he's actually slowing down super slow. You know, there won't even be a lurch when he stops. He's lifting the brake up, and it's transitioning so slowly you're not noticing the scenery isn't gone, and boom, he's stopped outside the abattoir. And he's called you a sheep and told you to get out. That's how slowly it's coming down, and you didn't even feel a lurch. It was such a light foot on the brake. That's how they're killing cash. It's almost beautiful execution for these guys. I mean, they're good at what they do. I mean, there's no getting away from it. I mean, Trump so's done the job for them. I mean, it's unbelievable. Amazon pays next to nothing in taxes. But they will pay in America, but they get away with next to nothing. I think it was Apple that paid a fraction. There was an article, someone calculated 0.001% in the UK and various other countries. And they actually kept a lot of money offshore so that they never had to pay a repatriation tax. And then Trump did this big, hey, tax extravaganza, and they all brought the money flooding back into America. You know, a loophole that he opened for a gate that they all had a chance. So they work in hand, you know. They do what's fiscally right for the business to hoard and build tons of money. And then they lobby the politicians to give what's kind of like an armistice, what's it called? I'm not finding the right word. And then everyone brings their money back during that period where it's just to pay a once-off very small fee, and they all land it. What about the UK? What's going to happen to GBP USD? Some are asking. What's going to happen to Euro USD? So here's where the dash to trash comes in. So two questions about currencies against the dollar. So they all are trying to establish in a shrinking pie, beggar thy neighbor, relative efficiency in having a low exchange rate. They all want it. Britain is being kept low by Carney, way lower than it needs to be, but it benefits Britain's exports to a degree. But certainly they're fighting for the inflation. Brexit's been a useful distraction for all that. The Europeans are going to go, they've brought in not a banker, a politician, political lawyer. You've got a political lawyer in, not someone who understands models or anything like that in Lagarde. So this is part of the negotiated process. She's convicted fraud. She's properly controlled. I'm sure they've got plenty of stuff that to blackmail her. If for all those that want to say orange man bad, she looks like the orange woman with the silver vervet monkey hair. And she is properly owned, and she's here to make the political pill that everyone's going to have to swallow seem reasonable. Now, I've greeted ladies and gentlemen on here, and I want to say the control structure is very good at using a female face to deliver some of the worst news and to do some of the worst things. Because there's certain things and certain ways you can't behave towards a woman that you could get away with towards a man. In the same way we use ethnicity, in the same way we do many things. So it's exceedingly useful to have a Democrat, Obama, African heritage to pass, for example, fracking licenses. Because if Bush had done it, it would have been fragrant, oil, white, conservative, business at any cost, screw the environment, Republicans don't care. So it's very useful to have a Democrat so you can see this kind of adverse, this use of different things. So she's quite clearly going to be the outrider and the baton carrier for this particular mission, Lagarde. third world countries like SA in an up and coming economic financial collapse, what will happen? I will address that. So what you'll actually be looking at is Euro USD is competing with the dollar to devalue. They all are. Pound goes the same for the GBP USD. What typically happens, especially Rijkaard's been in on this, is they have turns to ugly up their face. I call it the non-beauty contest. It's called the ugly contest. Everyone gets a chance to stand on stage and smash their face up a little bit, which is their own currency. So Carney was taking the stick, the baseball bat, to his own face, or the British nation's face, and battering it. With Brexit, and saying every time, oh, the uncertainty, must print more pounds, oh dear, oh, Brexit, oh, it's going to be so terrible. Oh my God, we must print some more, oh, we must destroy some more currency. And then the ECB, the ECB has been, according to Rijkaard, very effective in keeping itself as one of the forerunners of consistently keeping a lid on its currency. It's so got such problems. I still think it can fall further, because it's going to, it's going to have real fallout. Notice how the media is not talking so much about Deutsche Bank and the Italian banks and all of that. None of that's ever gone away. It just gets brought out and reheated when it gets critical again. So there's all sorts of deals going on there. There's all sorts of reasons. Europe is going to fail. And the other thing about the UK is they've been totally cheated out of their Brexit, as I've consistently said would happen. And it'll always look like foiled. The others are just that little bit smarter. You keep getting foiled, more time goes on, and then pass by. I'm concerned for South Africa. So I'll talk about South Africa. I'm not in South Africa at the moment. I am in a sunny clime. I intentionally put Paris in the location to cause misinformation. I am not in Paris. That is not the Champs-Élysées. Yeah, I am someplace warm that is near the sea. And that's how I like it. A bit of water in terms of that. So overall, 166 people and 89 likes. Appreciate you all for that. Grab the mini series if you haven't already. Book a call to chat to one of our guys if you think you'd like our community. So RSA and emerging nations. So the dollar milkshake theory the dominoes fall from the small to the big, always, generally. You can't say exclusively, but generally. I think we're going to have a region-specific crisis first that will ripple through and clear up the emergings. So I think there's a Southeast Asian crisis. The Korean One narrative will tie into that, and I think it will follow from the battle with that will follow from the Trump re-election. So the time that 21. 20, maybe the late parts of 20, going into 21, we'll have the Korean One moon shoot, and that will be a major fallout. You'll have the Chinese One losing value as well. What people don't realize about the Chinese One, yes, China's a big currency, but there's only 1% of global world transactions that take place in the One. Nobody wants to hold it. It's totally controlled by China, and everyone in China wants to get out of it and is getting to Bitcoin, dollars, and other currencies. Why? Because it's communism. So if you create a one-way entry door that only the Chinese can control the creation thereof, no one trusts their stats, and you can't get back out once you've done it. And that's why they've also opened up their country for certain investments. You can buy their over-bloated and overvalued assets that are in deep, deep trouble. China's in huge trouble. They did the growth for the whole planet between 09 and 11. And started to run aground between 11 and 15. 2000, the early part of 16, when we called a crash, in 15, it was a China-related thing. They went from low debt to ridiculously over-indebted. And they kept Australia afloat and to some degree New Zealand during that way. That's why the Aussie dollar sliding to keep their banks solvent and to allow the property prices to devalue, killing the currency. So your house can sell for 100K when you bought it for 100K 5 years ago, but your Aussie dollar doesn't buy you half what you used to pay. You used to pay a 2 Aussie dollar for a loaf of bread, now you pay 10. These sort of things. Your personal inflation rate's gone up immensely. Thank you for that. Generous with your knowledge. So the emergings will then get caught up in the Southeast Asian fail, because everyone will be short dollars. This is why there will be a bit of a dollar milkshake, where they will all rush, because they've created so much debt in dollars, they all need to repay it. The IMF will come on. The thoughts on global payment system interoperability. Well, there's going to be rivalry in global payments. The SWIFT system facing some others. So the rest of the emergings will be swept up, I expect, with the dollar crisis. Remember how it happened for long-term capital. So these things are like a drill. Long-term capital was a drill. It was a hedge fund. It was a big hedge fund. It was a hedge fund. They got the whole world in trouble on a hedge fund. Russia did a default, but first it actually started in Thailand, went through Thailand, Southeast Asia. That was 96, 97. Feels like a long time ago, but I remember it well. But now I look at it, it's the better part of bloody 20 plus, going on soon on 25 years ago. I remember all of that. The Thai baht, they called, traders locusts. Anyone who makes money, by the way, let me warn you, you're going to be deeply unpopular. You made it happen. You crashed a Korean won. You profiting out of other people's pain. You evil. Expect that, by the way. You'll be hated and loathed. And, brokers may even stop new trades from being put on once it starts going. This is why I'd rather be in early than not. People, and only the institutions will then make the bucks once it's in. So you've got to be in. They can't close your trade. They might eventually one day be able to do that, close profitable trades. Certainly on gold, I can see them doing cash settlements and things like that instead of giving you gold ounces. But they will, once you're in, you're normally pretty safe. Trying to get in, they'll block you. So no liquidity. We're not taking any more on the USD Korean won. Warning. You've got to be in. Okay, you're going to come back to this point and you say, he did say it, crap, and now I didn't have all the size I wanted. You're going to have to watch this sucker, and you've got to be in. So overall, when that happens, because they're not here to make you money. They're not here for even smart people like you to have the facility to make money. When you most need the facility and you will be making money, that's when they're going to take it from you. It's the same as banks and loans. When you don't need a loan, they're there to give it to you. When you most need it, it's going to be taken away. The entire system is not designed for you to make profits. Institutions with trading desks will make the money. Bonuses will be paid to bankers for getting the trade right. Even if they get it long after us, they'll still be able to put it on. So all of this. So Southeast Asia fails, rolls into some emerging currencies that will all typically have too few dollars for debt. IMF plays this huge role of, we're going to have this emerging crisis. It's not just one country. We need a new Bretton Woods, a Bretton Woods moment for our time. They were celebrating 75 years since Bretton Woods not too long ago. So we say, a Bretton Woods for our time. This is going to be exciting and radical, but first they cause pain and suffrage. You can't draw money. Make sure you have some cash separate, well hidden. Keep your bullion off grid. They will lock down your bullion. All sorts of aspects like that will apply. So be careful, be careful, be careful. So with that all being discussed, these things are happening. So what else? So the emerging currencies will be rolled up in that and all start to fail one after one. But I think the Southeast Asia is the epicenter. It's going to be 96, 97 all over again. Long-term capital failed. All the banks were made to bail out a hedge fund in long-term capital. That was part of that 96, 97 event. Then you had subprime. All the banks failed, and government using your tax money as collateral and future tax money and raising debt and devaluing your currency. Governments bailed out banks. So the first one was a drill and a clear run, and they got away with it. No one had a revolution in the street that banks were bailing out a hedge fund. I mean, imagine I start a hedge fund and I put on a bad trade. Who's going to bail me out? Not going to happen. Oh, but this one, it did. Oh, because you have a really big bet, you become a problem for everyone else. Instead of it being your problem, it's everybody else's problem. So that's what happened. So now government bailed the banks. Now government is so over indebted. You've got the US barely collecting over half in tax receipts. It's interest payments. And its interest payments are going to go down because they're going to devalue, but are only generally in the aggregate going up. Even if they reduce rates, they're creating so much new debt that they only go up. They desperately need negative rates to get a positive carry instead of a negative carry for their debt. So the dollar will first dip And that's why we might be seeing the USD Korean won coming down. We get a nice squeeze. But when everyone has to pay back debts and is indebted and the system is failing, everyone's going to have to rush back into dollars, and there's going to be a shortage of dollars. Because the problem with the debt system is you borrowed that first dollar into existence, you have to borrow the interest payments that are owed onto it into existence. So it's an ever expanding. So you always have less dollars than what you need when you look at the interest as well as the original capital. So it's kind of like the emerging markets are three buffalo girls dancing around two chairs. One of the girls is going to be sitting on her horns instead of a chair. And that's going to be a different kind of ride for her. You know what I mean? So this is the concept of scarcity. So in a debt expanding system, you've got two chairs and three buffalo girls. And one of them gets real uncomfy. And so there's going to be a rush for chairs, which is, in this instance, undersupplied dollars. And that's the best way for me to explain that to you. And I hope some of you chuckled. I'm seeing a complete lack of comments in my attempt at humor there. So it has me greatly worried that you don't find it as funny as me. It's always worrying and very narcissistic if you find something funny that no one else does. Anyway, 108 likes, 174 of you online. So I hope I've dealt with timings, reset timings. I hope I've dealt with the equities discussion and a little bit why it's been somewhat delayed. This article, I'll add it additionally. It's not in the comment notes. The time has come to exit this phase of making property sacred, to go beyond capitalism. Now, capitalism hasn't been the problem. I know you think that we're failing, the system is failing. The central banking cartel and the Fed and the central banks that always inflate assets for their banker clients that are balance sheet rich in asset classes like shares and in property are the people. It's a lobbyist game where the people that create money look after the people that gave them the jobs that are the bankers. That isn't capitalism. That is a captured system. That is a captured statist governmental system where the insiders live off the collective. These guys are ranchers and we're the cattle. And they kill us to eat us. Simple as that. These guys are the ranchers and they kill you. If they want veal, they're going to kill your babies. If they want beef, they're going to kill your men. And if they want to stick a cow in and pull its udders all day long and extract it and keep it as a perpetual milking system, they're going to do all of that to all of us. So that's not capitalism. Capitalism is free pricing structures, true markets through a price discovery mechanism, real competition, breaking up of monopolies and oligopolies. Actually, we're having a conglomeratization. We have a one beer world order with SAB and Anheuser-Busch, the merger. That's an absolute monopoly. You're having in gold. You have Barrick that has bought, I've got to do a Buffalo Girls t-shirt. 3 hats with horns and 2 chairs. Who gets the rough ride? Someone will like that, I'm sure. We'll get a limited edition spec. Anyway, so you've got this Mossad-based Epstein blackmail political system that only people that are held over a barrel get to lead. And you have a surveillance state that the corporations are all cooperating. Why do you think no one is worried about Deutsche Bank? Everyone is worried about Deutsche Bank. They've just stopped talking about it because they don't want to give the euro a free ride to get lower and give all the European the exporters the greatest benefit. They're all dashing to trash. They all want negative news actually on their own country in a way. Trump saying China is a currency manipulator is Trump trying to make it cheaper in dollar terms to have workers in America instead of in China. The negative rates do help governments. They don't help banks. Banks have a margin of what they can borrow at and what they can lend out at. There's no winners in the US-China trade war. It's designed to create, it's a ruse to add taxation and cost of doing business to both nations. So Trump effectively kind of taxes his own citizens. You can't get cheap goods from China anymore, so he makes it more expensive. So the people that buy goods that are made in China pay more because of the tariffs. The Chinese will just add it to their pricing. And the Chinese devalue their currency so they can still, in yuan terms, make the same profit. So if they were making them for 100 yuan and selling them for 200 yuan in America, they just, at a Chinese level, they're still making them for 100 yuan and they're still selling them for 200 yuan, and they've just devalued their currency from having a ceiling of 6 to being, let's say, 7.5. So they have a 1.5 on 6, you've done a 25% devaluation, you can pay a 25% tariff. So they've taxed, China has taxed the Chinese by giving them a gift of a cheaper currency and devaluing their money and making it easy for China to warm their economy back up locally because they've indebted and bust, and also lower their interest rates. And Trump gets a tax windfall because all his American citizens will now have a higher personal inflation rate, paying a higher amount for something that comes from abroad that could be available cheaper if the taxes were reduced. So the only losers are you, always. You need to understand that. This is a phony war. They're both blaming the other person and punishing their own citizens. This is, you slap me in the face and I turn around and punch my girlfriend in the mouth. She's the victim. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I wanted to hit her, you just gave me the reason. It was because of her you did it. You know what I mean? That's the equivalent. It's absolutely no logic to that rationale. Devaluation in China is a tax. Every time they inflate and proliferate currency, it's a personal tax on you. All the money you've saved and own is going down. That's to try force you into investing into the stock market, putting it all there, buying property and buying goods. That's it. So that's the nature of the game. Good, guys. I really appreciate 160 of you on at the moment. There were 111 likes. I really appreciate that. I hope that's been useful. I hope it's provided some context on those trades. I'll come out at you on the PAA and talk about that structure. It's a very high reward to risk. So you've got some real premium trades. Regrets if I wasn't clear. It isn't an all-in straight away now moment on those other trades. I hope I've given better guidance as to when I actually think it'll happen, but they were playing with the line when we did that clip. And, we had to protect against. There's no point coming afterwards. If it had broken and I came afterwards, everyone's missed it. So, I was a bit in a limbo. It could be now, but it could be postponed and made later. And that's why entries, you've got to be really careful. You've got to phase your way in, trade super small, and accumulate a position as you continue to get confirmation, rather than just to go, that's it, I'm binary, like a light switch. I'm either in or I'm out, and I'm 100% in, now I'm 100% out. You've got to be a little bit more sophisticated than that when you enter into markets, and you're doing something that is a timing-based activity, which involves leverage. So you've got to be really, really subtle with that. Yeah, thanks from Sydney. All the best to Sydney, watching you. Excellent. Plenty of brewskis there. Well done on the cricket, by the way. Established some good cred there. I think winning UK side. Well done to the Aussies. Yeah, looking forward to Rugby World Cup. And I'm going to pop off to go see the Liverpool. Have a great weekend. I hope you valued this. It's a long old shake. But that should give you some context of where I'm at and what I think is going to be going down. We'll see how this whole bun fight plays out. Keep accumulating bullion, in my view, not advice. That is what I will do. You may choose to do so too, if you so wish. That is not me telling you what to do. Keep accumulating on a monthly basis, zero cost average. That's investment. It's unleveraged. You probably are going to be nice and heavy with bullion in the selling off market for the major leg. That is that 3 Elliott wave that will be even larger than the first leg, probably between 62%, plenty of scope to overshoot. Don't forget, they will print, and the relative comparison of whatever currency you're in, it's going to be absolutely blown off the hinges, so it can super overperform. All that good. Okay, catch you all later, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now, and I'm going to check out if I can find the end button. Otherwise, you'll hear me stamping on my phone and grumping and groaning and doing all the usual tech useless stuff that I tend to do. It would be super cool of them if they actually had ends end stream button here. The whole thing is image, and so now you have to get a close-up of my nostril. There's a little cross at the top. Are you sure I want to stop streaming?